Number one problem that we have, that our customers have, is related to batteries, whether they be dead, whether they be bad, whatever that is. So I want to talk about this today a little bit. I want to talk about what are the causes so we can help eliminate this. The most obvious cause is something gets left on in the boat, battery switch gets left on, and through a period of time, it'll run those batteries dead. We've also seen components fail like an automatic bilge pump switch. This switch comes on when you get water in there, and we've seen them stick and not turn off. That'll certainly run the battery dead quickly. Another one that's pretty common is the radio memory. To remember the radio stations, there's a wire that's hooked around the battery switch. In other words, it's still wired hot, just like your automatic bilge pump, when the battery switch is off. So if there's a long period of time between boat use, it doesn't get an opportunity to rejuvenate itself and get charged by the alternator. A lot of our customers don't have the ability to charge these batteries on the boat when they're sitting on the lifts. The lifts are solar powered, battery solar powered. They don't have power on the dock, so they can't have a battery charger. So these all combine to create a difficult issue. The other thing is, a lot of times a customer may go out, they'll go over to Bigfoot Beach, they'll run the stereo for 2 or 3 hours with a big amplifier, have a really good time. Then they drive back to the dock thinking their batteries are going to get charged. It's only a 15-minute ride back. You're not going to recharge batteries that have been used for over 2-3 hours in 15 minutes. So the batteries keep going down and down. The next thing I want to talk about is the batteries themselves. They're typically a lead acid battery, which means you have sulfuric acid and you have lead plates in here. There's 2 different types of lead. What makes the battery work is the difference between the acidity of the acid and the lead in the lead. So the differentiation between those can create energy. When you discharge a battery or use it, the sulfur portion of the sulfuric acid attaches itself to the lead plate and forms a crust on that plate. Once the plate is completely coated over, you have no more potential left. Now, when you charge the battery, that sulfur is then put back in with the H2O. Sulfuric acid is SH2O, so it's basically water with some sulfur mixed in, and it puts it back in. If the battery remains discharged for a while, this sulfur that's on the plate forms a crust. Now the acid can't touch as much of the plate, so the capacity of the battery is diminished. So what are we doing? What did Jerry's do? Well, we started looking at some new batteries of a different style to help combat this. There's AGM batteries, been out there for a while, absorbed glass mat. They're a good battery, but oh my gosh, they're expensive. So the company that we use, Interstate, came out with a battery called EFB, Enhanced Flooded Battery. Basically, it's done 2 things. It's changed the compounds of the lead to make it more resistant. The second thing is it's got a grid that's actually on the plates themselves. This grid helps this sulfur from sticking on the plates, so it doesn't form this crust and it'll go back into the acid. So to come along with the better battery, these things are now warranted for 2 years. 2 years replacement, which is unheard of in the marine industry. To get a battery to last more than 2 or 3 years in this industry, for any reason, is difficult, just because of the challenge in the environment that they're in. So you might ask, when we send you a quote or we call you on the phone and say, hey, you need some batteries, what did we do? How did we come to that conclusion? Well, there's 2 ways we test batteries. Number one of my favorites is the old style. This is a battery load tester. Basically, we're going to put this on the battery and we're going to ask it to work. We're going to start with the fully charged battery, and we can look to see what the voltage drops to, and it has to maintain a certain voltage for a period of time, which tells us the battery is good. A more advanced way of testing them is this here. What this is a tester that we hook up to the battery. It goes through and looks at voltages and potential of the battery. Then it hits the battery with a strong load for a second or 2. From that, it determines that the battery is either good or bad. The nice thing about this one is it gives us a printout. We can print the results. So we just don't call you up and say you need a couple of batteries. You notice I said a couple. If you have 2 batteries, we need to replace them as a pair. Because if I've got them and they're together and you've got one battery that's new and one battery that's old, the old battery is always pulling on the new one. So they're going up and down. This adds to this sulfation. That's why we always replace them as pairs. It's just a good idea. Don't want to be stuck out on the water because of a battery. The last thing I want to talk about batteries is what we do when we do a battery service. When your boat comes in for winterization, you see that we charge you a little bit of money to do a battery service. Well, obviously we're going to test them, okay, but we're going to charge them first, okay, and we're going to look at other things. If we can see the cells, we're going to look in there to check the water. We're going to add water if necessary. If we get one cell that's lower than the rest, we know we've got a bad battery. That one cell is either going bad or it already is bad. Then we're going to disconnect them. That way, there's nothing going to be pulling on them over the winter. Last thing I want to share with you, if we suggest that you need batteries when we do this during winterization, we're going to put it in our work notes, our unit notes, and make log of it, because we don't want to put new batteries in the beginning of winter. We'd rather wait till the springtime, so you're going to get more of that warranty. There's no sense putting a brand new battery in now and letting it set through the winter. Hopefully this little instruction here gives you a better idea of what we look for and how we're trying to do a better job. Good news is it's really working.